Hello, Professor Lorente, class. Welcome to our project on Radio Shack. My name is Chris Fox.
I'm Reliy.
And I'm McQuity.
And we have Mohammad. But we're going to go ahead and start off with Reliy. Take us away.
Company Radio Shack. Overall, their financial standing has recently reached historic lows. The self-proclaimed leading national retailer of innovative technology products and services has seen a drastic decrease in net income these past few years. In the year 2009, Radio Shack was raking in about $205 million, this figure being their net income of that year. Since that time, the company has seen a drastic decline from that $205 million. In the year 2012, Radio Shack posted net income of negative $139.4 million. This result is down negative 307.75% from the previous year, 2011. There have been many issues plaguing this eroding company as of late. Also in 2012, Radio Shack brought in $4.3 billion in revenues and earned 36.7% gross margins. The steady erosion in gross margins led to a net loss of $139 million for the year. The second quarter of 2012 reported a strong balance sheet and liquidity of $910 million. Said Jim Gooch, President and Chief Executive Officer of Radio Shack Corporation, of the company's then current outlook. Our financial position and balance sheet are strong. Our liquidity exceeds $900 million, and year-to-date, we generated positive operating cash flow. As we look towards the upcoming debt maturity of $375 million in August 2013, we have decided to adjust our capital structure and lower our debt-to-equity ratio. We expect to refinance approximately one-half of this debt maturity in the coming months, with the balance paid down with excess cash. In conjunction with this strategy, we have decided to suspend our dividend program. This will allow us to increase the amount of excess cash available to pay down the debt, continue to invest in improving the business, and ensure that we maintain our strong balance sheet. We believe this approach will drive the best long-term outcome for our shareholders. The Radio Shack boss urged shareholders of a brighter future for the company, one that would use certain tactics to decrease their debt amount and maintain an impressive balance sheet. However, it seemed that things wouldn't improve in the short term. In July of 2012, the company announced it would stop paying a dividend. On the 25th of that month, shares had lost 1/3 of their value, and on that morning, were trading at levels last seen in 1980. Anthony Chukumba, an analyst at BB&T Capital Markets, remarked on the turn of events. Radio Shack's financial performance went from bad to worse. We think the stock will be dead money until current trends start to show some sign of stabilizing. Radio Shack pointed to lower consumer electronic sales and higher costs as the reason for the decline. On Tuesday, April 22nd, 2014, Radio Shack shares fell to an all-time low, $1.28 per share. The company disclosed that Troy Risch, Executive Vice President of Store Operations, had resigned on April 18th to delve into other interests. Unfortunately, he was regarded as one of Radio Shack's top 5 executives, so this news most likely comes hard for many members of the company alongside prospective and current investors.
Radio Shack, a once top competitive electronic outlet, is now a rapidly declining franchise with one foot on the ground and the other on black ice. So how can a business go from being an ideal place to purchase one's necessary electronic accessories to a only last resort option? Simple. The current stores are prehistoric, their inventory is outdated, the employees lack training, knowledge, and incentive, and Radio Shack's online business is simply no competition for Amazon and eBay. Rapidly thriving businesses such as Amazon are constantly fighting to find the next big technological advance in improving their customer service and productivity. In contrast with Radio Shack, the stores have almost remained the same, including the inventory and presentation. Furthermore, the lack of drive and commitment to improve their customer service had customers running out the doors, virtually leaving Radio Shack a ghost town, except for the customers who need that last resort cable or battery to charge their iPhone or whatever. It is easily conceivable to view the vast differences from walking into a Best Buy and a Radio Shack. It is apparent that the management has been focusing on crunching numbers than self-improvement. So to understand Radio Shack's predicament, I drove down to the nearest Radio Shack to get a first-hand experience on their demise. While approaching the entry of the Radio Shack, the first thing I noticed was the front display. On a shelf that consisted of old archaic phones that looked like drug dealers carry on the movies. So after walking in, I did a quick head count of how many customers were in the store. It was pretty easy. It was 0. So I figured since I was the only customer, this would be a great time to ask some questions to one of the two employees running the shack. So, my first question to, let's call him Scott to preserve his anonymity. Aren't you guys tanking as a company? Was my first question. Scott replied, honestly, Radio Shacks are very profitable. They don't take much staff to run, and they fit more items per square foot than any other retail outlet. So, having witnessed the numbers in my district, my assumption is that every district store, a few fail, but the great ones carry the rest. Well, so my second question was, I thought Walmarts and Best Buys were dominating the market and running you out. What is your clientele like, and what do they buy? Do you have a lot of loyal customers, or is it seriously just people who need a charger in emergencies like Walmart had a long run or something like that? And Scott's reply was, we sell a lot of wires, he said. It has always been our motive that we'd rather sell the wires for your TV than the TV itself. I'll also point out again that the low operating costs. Most Radio Shacks will employ one manager and one sales rep, versus big box retailers that will have 50 plus employees, not to mention the gigantic stores that you get lost in. So Radio Shack still has a loyal group of customers that come in for that specialty parts, where those numbers are simply dwindling now. And my last question for Scott was, do you think the corporate puts too much pressure on meeting metrics than rather properly training employees? Scott's answer was absolutely. It makes for a demotivating atmosphere that doesn't properly allow for new employees to properly learn. And it may sound weird at first, but they think you'll improve by constantly making aware of your performance rather than spending the energy teaching you. This is shown in our bi-weekly conference calls that they spend 90% of the time talking about numbers and 9% are talking about upcoming events and 1% on useful sales tactics. I thanked the manager, Scott, and then went home. Radio Shack is barely surviving in this market. They are primarily still afloat because of their low employee roster and their high profit turnover rate. Along with my visit to Radio Shack, I had a lot of time to look at their merchandise. It was all very bland and generic. Everything they had, I could find at Walmart or Best Buy. There was nothing that really caught my eye, and there was nothing really unique for me to come back and shop there. So this issue is the largest reason for Radio Shack's market failure. If people can find all the same products and possibly cheaper somewhere else, they're going to shop somewhere else, obviously. But when it comes to finding solutions for Radio Shack's financial demise, there really is no easy solution. However, we came up with a few ideas that we believe might help draw customers back to the stores. So let's recap. Radio Shack's current stores are prehistoric, their inventory is outdated, and the employees lack training, knowledge, and incentive. So Radio Shack's online business is also failing in competition for Amazon and eBay. With this all in mind, Radio Shack's dull and non-inviting atmosphere creates a dismal shopping experience. A major marketing scheme is to draw customers by grabbing a hold of their attention with an engaging and captivating atmosphere. As mentioned before, Brookstone is an excellent example of modern innovative technology. It is hard not to peer into one of the stores with bewilderment and excitement upon simply walking by and seeing the futuristic gadgets imagined, all with white displays, shelves, floors, etc. Beautiful lights that flicker throughout the stores bounce off the white tiles like a prism. One does not simply experience the same effect by walking into a Radio Shack. If Radio Shack decides to pursue this makeover, a futuristic modern theme would draw and engage customers to a point where they will come back and enjoy their shopping experience.
Good afternoon, class. My name is Reliy McQuity, and I'll be talking about the final outlook of Radio Shack. As far as rethinking Radio Shack's main purpose in the competitive market, it's all around format. Merchandise mix and physical presence is something that just doesn't register with the consumers of today's standards. A few of these steps include reversing the prehistoric condition and demeanor these stores have been left in since the 90s, updating inventory, and genuinely reinvesting in the employee training to boost overall morale and basic knowledge of store inventory and customer service. To recap, Radio Shack's current stores are of a prehistoric nature. Their inventory is outdated, employees lack training and basic knowledge of Radio Shack's online business and inventory. Radio Shack will need to draft inspiration from all fields of tech to really combine all the aspects and appearance and translate that into the physical overhaul of the remaining 4,000 stores. To obtain old from new and really evolve as a chain, Radio Shack will look to employ measures of green engineering and cost-effective methods when refurbishing and restoring its image in the consuming public's eyes. The second step Radio Shack must take will lead them to a brighter future is the serious rejuvenation and modernization of their entire inventory. They will need to update the demographics needs and will have to closely monitor the demographic and track what they are consuming so as to provide them with the most up-to-date inventory. If Radio Shack can legitimately hone their marketing skills so as to provide the consumer with a piece of tech market that the other giant tech stores aren't paying attention to, for example, 3D printers, Radio Shack will see a viable piece of the pie, and this will translate to increases in sales and overall positive projection for future financial reports. A more confident buyer is a happy buyer, and this translates into more sales and a higher volume of revenue passing through the stores and into the pockets of investors. The last step in the overhaul to bringing Radio Shack out of the shadows and into the view of consumers is restoring and modernizing their online presence to be able to compete with competitors such as eBay, Best Buy, and Amazon. So much of the electronics we buy as consumers these days happens via online. Amazon has certainly cornered the market for online commodities, but Radio Shack, if implementing our previous stated strategies, will be able to pull off a certain marketable niche that hasn't been touched yet. This will translate into online traffic and render serious hits in the right spectrum. With this, Radio Shack can capitalize on the overlooked specific tech toys and successfully see gains in sales revenue and profits in the not-so-far future. Radio Shack has a long and arduous road ahead of itself, mainly due to the lack of attention and detail to the consumer and the product they wish to move from their shelves. If so employed, these few steps discussed above and the many to be drafted among the controllers and owners of other franchises will help to create the blueprint for resurrection and success if monitored closely. The remaining stores should see figures posted in the black within the decade.